David, thanks. A Kaukauna High School teacher previously placed on administrative leave over a social media post following a shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner involving President Donald Trump has been fired tonight. The school board voting 6-1 to terminate Patrick Meyer after meeting in closed session nearly 10 hours. That decision coming after weeks of debate, which included both criticism and support. It's a story that drew national attention. Social studies teacher Patrick Meyer posting on social media that he was not impressed with recent presidential assassins, citing previous assassins and changing the term MAGA into something different. The post has since been taken down and Meyer has deactivated his X account, but the incident led to calls for Meyer to be fired the very next day at a Kaukauna school board meeting and others speaking out to defend his character. This was back on April 27th.
I learned so much from his class about current events, world history, and geography because he encouraged students to stay informed and work hard. What Mr. Meyer did not encourage was violence.
His comment was, "Make assassinations great again." What does this teach our kids? If you disagree with someone, we should just kill them, right? My child will not be taught by a teacher who promotes violence.
Just a few days later, on April 30th, the school board met again, this time in closed session for nearly 2 hours, with an agenda indicating the board would discuss and possibly vote on a high school teacher's contract, but no action was ever taken. With Meyer still on leave, the board met again Wednesday, this time voting to terminate Meyer, ending the debate about a month after the social media post sparked controversy. The superintendent did not speak after the board fired Patrick Meyer, instead telling us the district might issue a statement sometime tomorrow. Efforts to reach Meyer have so far been unsuccessful.